Welcome back, viewers. You are still tuned into Prime Live. I'm super excited for this next conversation as someone who loves to travel. I'm super excited to welcome to the show James Cameron, or Jay Cameron rather, President and CEO of Maximum Impact Travel. Now, in today's conversation, we'll be talking about Jay being the President and CEO of Maximum Impact Travel, spanning over 30 years of experience in travel, entrepreneurship, real estate investment, and cultural empowerment. He's become a global leader in curating transformative travel experience. In addition to his travel expertise, he also is an author of an incredible called The Adventures of Darren and Destiny, a children's book series that educates young minds on Africa's rich heritage. Good evening, and thank you so much for joining us on Prime Live.
Oh, thank you so much. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Doing well.
Glad to hear it. I mean, what an extensive bio, and I'm so impressed already. I mean, I'm someone who's incredibly passionate about traveling the African continent, seeing our rich heritage that we inherit in Africa. And of course, I'm super excited to get kickstarted on this conversation. But to start off our conversation this evening, let's start talking about your career. I mean, it's dynamic, it's diverse, and it is impactful at the least. What inspired you to focus on travel specifically? And when it comes to your speciality in Africa, why the African continent?
I spent most of my life not interested in traveling to Africa. And it's kind of interesting. I was born in the United States and they label us as African American. So, but I had no interest in traveling to Africa until I realized that I was getting a little older. And I said, if I don't go and see for myself, I could end up not ever seeing the continent of Africa. And at that point in time, I didn't understand how many countries were in Africa, and I decided to go to the country of Ghana. And when I went to Ghana, my eyes they were opened, and so many things that I've been taught throughout my life, I discovered were not true. And then I realized that there were millions of people just like me in the U.S., in Canada, and other parts of the world that needed to have this exposure. And so I decided at that point in time, I said, you know what? I'm going to at least be a bridge for people to have this experience on the continent of Africa and the different countries on the continent of Africa. And then that's how it all got started.
I couldn't agree more. I think what you've shared is so incredibly important. There is so much of misinformation and misconceptions when it comes to the African continent, what it looks like. I have many a time been asked when traveling overseas if there are lions in my backyard and if we have running water in Africa. And what you've shared is so important, and I love that you've created a platform to showcase Africa as a travel destination. I personally love to travel within Africa. Being from the African continent, there's just so much beauty and so much of rich cultural heritage to explore within the African continent. And speaking of your travels within the African continent, incredibly impressive that you've been to 25 African countries and nearly 50 countries worldwide. What are some of your most memorable travel experiences, and why travel? What gives you, that zest for life, and what makes you want to continue to travel more?
All right, well, I'll answer your second question first. What gives me the zest is really discovering new experiences. Every place I go is different. No place is the same. And it may seem geographically, okay, they're close in proximity, but in reality, culturally, they're very different. And many times the languages are different, the cuisines are different. And so that's what keeps me going. Right now I'm in Ethiopia. So it's like, and then last week I was in Morocco, and two completely different worlds. And I've begun this journey in my life, and I said, you know what? I'm learning to appreciate our similarities and our differences. Because even with that, we do have our differences, but we also have a lot of things in common. So I meet some of the most amazing people, the nicest people in the world. And it's like every place I go, I establish connections that I would not have otherwise established had I stayed within the bubble that I was in. So now let's go back to your first question. What are some of my most memorable moments in Africa? Well, number one is going to be climbing to the top of Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania. So I did that in 2019. that was my, it's kind of like saying, hey, you know, I am breaking the mold, I'm doing something different. And that's what I did in 2019. Traveling, flying over what we know as Victoria Falls, the indigenous name Mosi Oyotunya. I flew over that in a helicopter. I'll never forget that. And going to the dungeons in Ghana, but then also spending time at top Table Mountain in South Africa, going out to Seychelles and seeing the going to Praslin in Seychelles. So there's so many different experiences, and that's why I encourage people to go and see for themselves, because it's one thing to see it in a video or read about it in a book, but there's nothing like tasting a mango from the continent or having some egusi soup from Nigeria or I mean, there's so many different cuisines. Some koshery from Egypt. You know, you have all of these experiences, and there's nothing like having them from a firsthand perspective.
Now, I completely relate to that sense of euphoria you experience when you get to experience new cultures, new traditions, and see, of course, incredible landscapes. I can completely relate to your experience in Victoria Falls, the Flight of Angels, and it is exactly that experience. It is euphoric and amazing to see, you know, the beauty that nature has to offer. And I think what you talked about is so incredibly important. Travel offers us a unique opportunity to broaden our horizons, to open our mindsets, and of course to open up our minds to what exists in the world, the way people live and the way they live differently from us and the way we live exactly the same. I think it's a wonderful correlation to be able to make those connections with people, and inevitably all those kind of misconceptions you have kind of fade away because you realize we're all just humans on this planet trying to do our best. And it's wonderful to be able to interact with different people from around the world, understand the way they see the world and the way they experience life as well. But I want to talk a bit more about some of the travel experiences that you offer as well at Maximum Impact Travel. Now, you're known for a lot more than just a standard vacation. You are offering services that are transformative in nature and, you know, that create a journey and a really life-changing, lifelong experience. Can you talk to us about some of the travel experiences that you offer and how they differ from other travel services that are available?
One thing I tell everybody is that when you travel with Maximum Impact Travel, it's not just a trip. It is truly an experience. And we think about it from a five sensory perspective, meaning the sight, the hearing, the touch, the taste, all of those things we want you to experience when you're traveling with us. But I don't know if it was mentioned in the bio or not, but I'm also a storyteller and I'm a playwright. So I curate these experiences based upon the emotions that go with telling a story. So when someone joins us, this every step of the way has been intentional, so that you're not just somebody's not just dropping you off and saying, "Hey, okay, go to this destination or to that destination." We think it through because we want you to get the most out of the experience. So let's say, for example, some people are coming because they want to learn from a historical perspective, or they're coming because they want to shop, or they want to taste the food, or they want to immerse themselves in some of the fashion or the nightlife. So what we do is we make sure that you get samples of all of that, because people are coming for different reasons. But what we also keep in mind is that the type of people who are attracted to the experiences, they are like-minded people who are saying, you know what, I want to do something different, or I've never been to the continent, or maybe I have been to the continent, or maybe I've been to a different part of the African diaspora and I want to have a different experience. So we think about all of that, and that's what we put into our packages to make it where it's not just a trip. You're not just coming and going to a hotel and getting in a van and just going. It's actually, we think it through to make sure that everyone feels, well, one, safety, comfort, and then we make sure that they have a lot of fun along the way.
I want to steer our conversation towards your children's book. Of course, your children's book is called The Adventures of Darren and Destiny, which is inspiring young readers to embrace African heritage, much like your own as well. To embrace African heritage, what inspired or motivated you to write a book of this nature, and what inspired the characters and the journey as well?
I did not want another generation of children to become adults and to become well into their adult years and not have an interest in traveling to the continent of Africa. And really, just like when I was growing up, they had cartoons for pretty much everything except learning about the continent of Africa and all that it offers. So that's what was the spark to say, okay, they might not be traveling to Africa at the age of 4 and 5. However, if they can read a story, if they can see an animation, because we have an animated series that goes along with the Adventures of Darren and Destiny, we have activity books that go along with that as well. So if we can start planting seeds while they're young, now that curiosity would be there. And so when they're thinking about travel plans, as they're getting older, hey, you know what? I think I might want to go check out Dakar, Senegal. Or I may want to go and see what's going on in Accra, Ghana, or what's happening in Arusha in Tanzania. So those are things that I thought about, and just another way that we could tear down the walls of misinformation and disinformation that have been passed along for ages. So that's where the Adventures of Darren and Destiny came into play, and their children all over the world who are now reading the books, they're seeing the animated series, and it is helping to change these narratives, these negative narratives.
Absolutely. I think it's so important to deconstruct and decolonize young children's minds on the misconceptions that do present themselves in the media landscape and what they're exposed to in cartoons. I think about some of the cartoons we used to watch about Africa, and being from the African continent, we would think about the wild thornberries. And if you actually travel within Africa, you realize that it's a completely different space. You imagine something completely different when you come here. And when you realize the amount of development and opportunity and beauty and culture that is rich within the African continent, I think it's such a different experience. But in addition to your travel adventures and endeavors, you are also an expert in real estate as well, and you are a real estate investor as well as an entrepreneur. How do you see travel as well as financial empowerment intersecting and coming together?
When people when they visit, they can see the opportunities. For I mentioned earlier that I'm in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia right now, and you see the cranes in the sky. I mean, there's so many cranes in the sky. I counted 50 buildings, new buildings that are under construction in Addis, and so that alone tells me that there is opportunity, economic opportunity, because of the rapid development that's happening within this part of the world. I saw it in Dakar, Senegal as well. I see it in Accra, Ghana. I own 3 properties in Accra, Ghana. I own a retail store and a beauty salon in Accra, Ghana. And these are things that I might not have thought of doing had I stayed in the US, but because I traveled and I saw the opportunity and I began to educate myself on a different level. So I was no longer a US domestic investor. My mindset now shifted to becoming a global investor and understanding currencies and understanding what's happening in some of the different countries. Now, you definitely want to educate yourself along the way, because if you don't, you can lose a lot of money. But if you're willing to put the time in, educate yourself, and really do your due diligence, the opportunities abound. And I see them all over the continent. I see them in South America. I see them in Central America. And so that's how they intersect. Travel, you go, you explore, you see the opportunity, and then something gets sparked. And before you know it, who knows? You may be. Some people have now decided to relocate. Or have options. I'm a dual citizen in 2 countries. Well, I'm a triple. I guess it's triple citizen now. But because of that, that's what I see for the future for those who are interested in exploring business opportunities. You travel, you go see, and then you see what sparks your interest.
That's a very innovative perspective, and I think a lot more people need to look at the African continent from your lens and from your perspective, because we talk about Africa being rich in resources and being the continent of opportunity. And what a wonderful perspective you've shared with us in looking at opportunities and how we can bring growth, further growth and development within the African continent, and how much of opportunity there does exist within these places. I mean, we look at places like Kenya and Rwanda that are beacons of what economic development and growth is and what it can be. And we see these growing nations all across Africa and the wonderful opportunities they present. But in closing, how does our viewers at home, how do we get in touch with you? How do we book our next trip with Maximum Impact Travel? And how do we keep in touch?
Certainly. Well, you can find me at J Cameron Official. That is my personal Instagram. But you can go to at Maximum Impact Travel, and you can see the travel. You have testimonials and so many different travel adventures at Maximum Impact Travel on Instagram as well as Facebook. You can go to the website maximumimpacttravel.com. That's where you can see all of the upcoming adventures and learn more about what we're doing, and you can follow me on YouTube at J Cameron Official. You go there and you'll see the testimonials, our documentaries. You can learn more about the adventures of Darren and Destiny. The book series is available on Amazon. So if you type in J Cameron Official or Maximum Impact Travel, you can find everything out about what we're doing and how you can be a part.
Thank you so much for sharing with us tonight, Jay. I think this was such an insightful conversation. So thank you for sharing your unique perspectives and for the wonderful platform you've created for the global world to experience the African continent and opening up the African continent to the rest of the world. And, we are all citizens of the world. We are citizens of multiple countries. And thank you for sharing your unique perspectives with us.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Viewers at home, that was Jay Cameron. I do hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as I had. Being someone who loves travel and loves exploring the African continent, I think Jay presents such a wonderful and unique platform and a unique perspective on travel when it comes to merging financial opportunities with your travel adventures and in growing the African continent and the developing countries in the African world. I think it's such a unique perspective, and if you'd like to reach out to him on his social media platforms to book your next travel experience, please do reach out to him on his social media platforms. But on that note, it is time for us to head over to an ad break, and we'll come right back.